I used to think I was born just to be the background for someone else's spotlight. Every year my sister's birthday was a grand celebration, while mine, if it happened at all, was a tiny cake and a few half-hearted wishes. Once, I asked my mother why the Barbie doll I had longed for was in my sister's gift box. She just shrugged. "Your sister behaves better, she deserves more." By the time I was 10, I understood. In my family, love was something given on conditions. And those conditions were ones I would never meet. My name is Morgan Davis. I'm 28 years old, living in Flagstaff, Arizona, where winters are covered in snow, but my childhood carried no real warmth. We were a middle-class family, not rich, but never lacking. The problem wasn't money. It was how they chose who to love. My sister Lauren is 4 years older. From the start she was the little angel, blonde hair, blue eyes, played the violin, always knowing how to say the right thing. Whenever guests came over, Mom would call Lauren down first, proudly boasting about her awards and achievements. I would stand halfway down the stairs, flour still on my hands from doing the dishes, silently listening to praise that was never meant for me. When I was in 3rd grade, I was elected class representative. I ran home, excited to tell my mom. She asked one question. "What about Lauren? Did she win a scholarship this year?" I didn't answer. I just nodded and walked quietly back to my room. I learned to be silent early on. Not because I had nothing to say, but because it didn't matter. No one was listening. At 16, I started working part-time at a small bookstore on Aspen Street. My shifts ran from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. after school. I never asked my parents for money, not out of pride, but because I knew exactly what they would say. "Lauren needs more, she's attending private university. Morgan, you need to learn to be independent." So, I learned independence, the way they wanted me to. But the cost was building everything from scratch myself. Textbooks, a laptop, even my first prom dress, which I found on clearance at the end of winter. Meanwhile, Lauren got a brand new Subaru for her 17th birthday. I remember it clearly. The whole family gathered outside, the lights blazing like an award ceremony. I stood on the porch with a broom in my hand, watching my father hand over the keys amid cheers. No one noticed me. No one asked what I might have wanted. One Christmas Eve, I overheard my mother talking to my aunt on the phone. "Morgan is fine, but Lauren is the real hope of this family." I was 17. And for the first time in my life, I felt completely invisible. Lauren went on to Columbia University. My parents didn't hesitate to take out loans so she could live in luxury dorms, join prestigious clubs, and spend summers studying abroad in Europe. As for me, I attended a community college in Arizona for 2 years to save on tuition. Then I transferred to a state school, working part-time at the library to afford it. Someone once asked me, "Morgan, why don't you seem jealous of your sister?" I smiled. It wasn't that I'd never been jealous. I had been so jealous it burned my throat every time I saw her being hugged, praised, prioritized. But I learned to snuff it out. Because if I let it grow, it would have turned me bitter. And I didn't want to become like them. Still, the wound stayed, soaking into my heart like slow, relentless rain, rotting wood. Every holiday I hoped something would change. But every year it was the same. Lauren getting expensive gifts, and me receiving a hastily knitted scarf. One year, my mother even forgot to write my name on the card. The only time I saw her cry for me was when I was hospitalized with a severe fever. But afterward she returned to her usual self, as if that brief flicker of softness had never existed. I realized then, I was only loved when my life was hanging in the balance. Otherwise I was simply there. Now looking back, I'm no longer angry. But I'll never forget. Because favoritism isn't about toys, or gifts, or tuition. It's about the way it plants a belief deep inside a child. You are not enough to be loved. And that belief, it grew up with me. Every day. Every year. Each cut invisible to the world. I remember that afternoon perfectly. A rainy April day, with the scent of lilacs heavy in the backyard. I was cleaning the living room when my mom walked in, holding a stack of colorful papers. She didn't look at me. She simply placed it on the coffee table and called upstairs. "Lauren, we got the documents from the lawyer's office." My sister ran down, her golden curls bouncing with each excited step. They sat together, chatting happily. I kept wiping the table, the invisible housemaid in my own home. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. But some numbers just sliced through the air too sharply to ignore. $400,000? That was the amount my parents transferred into a joint account for Lauren and her fiancé, Brandon. "A wedding gift from us," my mother said proudly, "to start their new life." 400,000. I set down the cloth. My hand trembled, but I made sure no one saw. I turned away, pretending to check the flowers in the vase, swallowing the lump rising in my throat. It wasn't about the money. It was about how easily they gave it away. As if it was the most natural thing in the world. As if Lauren deserved every good thing without question. I stepped outside onto the porch, sitting down in the wooden chair beside the old pine tree my father once planted. The rain fell lightly, each droplet on my skin feeling like unsaid words. I had once foolishly believed my turn would come. When Lauren and Brandon got engaged, they rented out an entire mountaintop restaurant near Sedona for the party. Fireworks, live band, professional photographers following Lauren's every move. My father gave a teary speech. "My daughter is the light of my life. We've been preparing this gift for years, just for this special day." The whole room stood to applaud. I sat at the very last table near the coat rack, quietly sipping my red wine. My heart clenched, not from jealousy, but because I didn't know what I had done so wrong to never deserve that kind of pride. Later I asked my mom, gently, whether the wedding gifts were meant for all her children. She looked at me without blinking. "You shouldn't compare. Everyone has their own blessings." Blessings. As if family love was a lottery ticket. As if I had drawn the losing card, and was expected to accept it without complaint. Even so, I clung to a fragile hope. I told myself my day would come. That one day I would stand in a room full of relatives, and my father would take my hand and say, voice trembling, "This is my daughter." I worked hard for that dream. At that time, I was a software engineer at a startup in Tempe. The salary wasn't high, but it allowed me to rent a small apartment near campus and slowly save each month. I didn't have a new car. I didn't have designer clothes. But I had my own peace. And a small dream. That one day, when I got engaged, someone would say, "Morgan, it's finally your turn." Lauren bought a house in Scottsdale just 1 week after her wedding. My parents accompanied her and Brandon to sign the paperwork. They posted family photos in front of the house, a wide porch, backyard pool, 3 bedrooms. I saw the pictures in the family group chat. Not once had anyone invited me to come along. A few weeks later, I visited them, bringing a bottle of wine as a gift. When I stepped inside, Lauren laughed. "I thought you were too busy for these little things." I forced a smile, handing her the bottle. Little things? It was a house worth over $500,000, largely funded by my parents' gift. Brandon patted my shoulder and laughed. "You'll have your turn soon, Morgan. When it's your time, don't forget to invite us." I smiled. But inside, a question echoed, that I didn't dare speak aloud. When it's my turn, would it even truly be mine? That night, I returned to my rented apartment. Small but tidy. Where every table and lamp had been chosen and assembled by my own hands. I told myself, it's fine. I'm fine. And I was. At least, for then. I didn't know that just a few years later, when I truly got engaged, every last shred of hope I had kept for my family would be crushed in the cruelest way. I never thought a sweet offer from my parents could turn into the sharpest blade I'd ever feel. When Eric, my boyfriend at the time, knelt under the blazing October skies of Arizona and proposed, I cried. Not out of surprise, but because I had waited my whole youth for that moment. A kind, sincere man who respected my boundaries. With him, I wasn't Lauren's shadow. I was Morgan, distinct, worthy, and loved. We planned a simple, cozy wedding, budgeting around $36,000. 0 cents the savings we had built over nearly 3 years living and working together in Tempe. No five-star hotel dream. No symphony orchestra. Just close friends, an outdoor venue full of trees, and a ceremony that would feel truly us. When I called to share the good news with my parents, I braced myself for a lukewarm response. But no. My mother's voice was filled with excitement. "Sweetheart, let us take care of everything. Just focus on enjoying yourself. We'll make your wedding perfect." My father chimed in. "You're our daughter, it's your turn, no need to worry." I froze for a few seconds. Hope flickered in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, they finally saw me too. Maybe this time would be different. They asked for every detail: flowers, menus, photography, music. They even toured the venue with us, a small farm outside Prescott, with twinkling lights and a creek running behind a wooden chapel. My mother even cried during the dress fitting. "You look so beautiful. I can't believe my little girl is getting married." In that moment, I let go of the old hurts. I thought, maybe I had been too harsh. Maybe they had changed. The wedding was perfect. Friends laughed, danced under golden lights. Eric squeezed my hand during our vows, his eyes brimming with tears. I laughed so much that night. Everything felt complete, as if every crack in my heart had finally been mended. 2 days later, as Eric and I packed for a short honeymoon in Sedona, an email from a familiar address popped into my inbox. jeremydavis56@gmail.com, my father's. The subject line made me stop cold. "Wedding expenses prompt response requested." I opened the attachment. A detailed Excel sheet appeared, itemizing everything. The flower arrangements for the aisle, $164.22. The shuttle rental from the parking lot, $292.00, all the way down to the tiniest item. The grand total, $35,463.89. At the bottom, a short note. "Please complete payment within 10 days of this email. Sincerely, Jeremy and Helen." No congratulations. No explanation. No hint that this was some kind of joke. I sat frozen in front of the screen. Eric walked in, saw my pale face, and sat beside me. "What's wrong, baby?" I handed him the laptop. He read silently, his eyebrows knitting tighter with every line, his hands clenching into fists. "What the hell is this? They said they would cover everything. You never even asked them to." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My heart felt poured over with cement, heavy and frozen. Memory flooded back. Every kind word, every gesture of love in the past 3 months, all just a setup for the perfect betrayal. Eric stood up angrily, pacing the room. "It's not the money. We could cover it if we had to. But this isn't a bill. It's an insult. They don't see you as family. They see you as debt." I nodded, my eyes dry. "Not debt. Just an outsider." I sat down and rewrote every line item from that invoice. Each number sliced like a small, deliberate wound. Wedding flowers, $1,248.50. White chairs, $920. 0 cents. Musicians, $560. 0 cents. I didn't cry. I only felt a vast emptiness, the same kind I had known since childhood. Always the second-tier daughter in my own home. That night, I wrote a check for the full amount. But I didn't just send the check. I enclosed it with a handwritten 2-page letter, every word steady, but cutting deep. I told them about the 10-year-old girl who once asked why she didn't get a new doll. I reminded them of the forgotten birthdays, the applause always reserved for Lauren. I described how, for a brief moment, I had believed they could truly love me, only to watch them turn the happiest day of my life into the cruelest betrayal. At the end of the letter, I wrote, "This will be the last time any financial link exists between us. From today on, I neither expect nor accept any further support, gifts, or inheritance from you. Please keep it all For Lauren, as always. I sealed the check and letter in an envelope and sent it by express mail. Then, I blocked all their numbers. I don't know what hurt more. The years of favoritism, or the moment I realized I had truly hoped they would be different. But I knew one thing. I would not stay silent anymore. I had thought I was used to being overlooked. But nothing could have prepared me for the feeling of having to pay for the fragile hope I had only just dared to believe in. That evening, after sending Eric out to pick up dinner, because he was pacing the apartment like a caged animal, I sat alone at the kitchen table. I turned off my phone. I switched on the soft yellow lamp. No voices. Just me, a check, and a blank piece of paper. I uncapped the pen. The tip glided over the paper like a blade, each word slicing open my own heart. Dear Mom and Dad. I had never written a real letter to them before. All those years, every feeling had been swallowed, covered with polite, "It's fine, I understand, as long as Lauren's happy." But this time was different. This time, I wrote as if it were the last conversation I would ever have with them. I was going to stay silent. I was going to swallow it all, like every other time. But that invoice, it wasn't just a document. It was a message. You are not our daughter. You are a debt to be collected. Mom, Dad, I didn't ask you for money. You were the ones who offered. With smiles, with hugs. And when I believed, you turned it into a knife. When Lauren got married, everything was a gift. When I got married, everything was a bill to repay. And don't talk to me about fairness, not anymore. Because if fairness means Lauren always got it by default, while I had to earn it, then there was never any fairness to begin with. The enclosed check marks the end of any financial ties between us. I owe nothing. And I expect nothing. As for any future inheritance, keep it. Give it all to Lauren. You made it clear who was the chosen one and who was just a shadow. I sat there, reading the letter 3 times. No edits. Every word was exactly what I had held back for almost 3 decades. I signed it, folded the letter, tucked it inside the envelope along with a check for $35,463.89, the exact amount on the invoice, not a cent missing. I sealed the envelope, stamped it, and asked Eric to drop it off at the post office the next morning. He nodded without saying a word. The way he squeezed my shoulder, silent but firm, nearly broke me. In that moment of crisis, I understood what it truly meant to have someone stand by you unconditionally. That night, I turned on my phone. A missed call from Mom. A text from Dad, reading simply, "Did you receive it?" No Morgan. No sweetheart. Just a cold administrative command. My hand trembled slightly, but I pressed block contact. I did the same with Mom. I removed them from my Facebook friends list and muted the family group chat. I didn't delete my wedding photos. But I never posted anything new afterward. At first the feeling was strange. Like peeling off an old layer of skin. Painful. Raw. But lighter. 3 days later, I received an email from Aunt Rachel, Mom's younger sister who lived in Oregon. She wrote, "Morgan, I don't know exactly what's happening, but Helen called me sobbing. Did you really send a check? Couldn't you have just called them first?" I deleted the email. No reply. The next text came from Lauren. "You're blowing this out of proportion. Mom and Dad just want fairness. Doesn't all those years raising you count for anything?" I didn't answer. And I wasn't angry anymore. Because someone once said, forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. 2 weeks later, I received a notification from the bank. The check had been cashed. No follow-up letter. No, we need to talk. No explanation. And strangely, the silence itself became the perfect ending. I printed a copy of the letter, the invoice, and the transaction receipt, and filed them neatly in a red folder. Not for revenge. But to remind myself, boundaries are not cruelty. Boundaries are radical self-love. That night, I sat on the balcony of my apartment, looking out over the blinking lights of Tempe. Eric poured 2 glasses of wine, handing me one. He said softly, "You're stronger than you think." I didn't reply. I just leaned against his shoulder. In my mind, there were no more echoes of Mom calling Lauren's name. No more visions of Dad's proud gaze, following the perfect daughter. I thought it would all end after the check was cashed. That they would step back, remain silent and let me move forward with my life. But, I forgot one thing. Those who are addicted to control never leave quietly when their power is challenged. It started with scattered text messages, from distant relatives I hadn't seen in a decade. Names barely recognizable flashing across my phone, each message hitting like nails into rotting wood. "Morgan, you made your mother cry for a whole week. You cut off your parents over a few $1,000s? Ungrateful. Drama queen, who do you think you are?" An aunt from Kansas, someone I barely remembered, even sent a nearly 2-minute voice message, claiming I was brainwashed by Eric and urging me to apologize before it's too late. I didn't respond to any of them. I knew these people didn't call me on my birthdays. Didn't send Christmas cards. Didn't ask how I was when I broke my leg in college. But the moment I stood up for myself, they reacted as if I had committed treason. 3 days later, while working from my bedroom, I heard pounding at the door. Urgent footsteps echoing through the 4th-floor hallway. Eric wasn't home. I peeked through the peephole. "Lauren." My eye twitched. My hand instinctively tightened on the doorknob. She wore a beige sweater, her hair pulled into a messy bun, almost no makeup, a rare sight for Lauren. But her voice was the same. Sharp, entitled, used to being obeyed. "Morgan, open the door, right now." I didn't move. She pounded harder. "Are you planning to hide forever? The family is falling apart because of you." I quietly started recording on my phone. I didn't know how far this would go, but I wasn't naive anymore. "Mom and Dad are heartbroken. And you're here, living like nothing happened? They gave you a wedding and you repay them like they're criminals?" I could hear her heels hammering the tiled hallway. Each word struck like an axe to the peaceful little life I had built. "You're selfish, Morgan. You've always acted like everyone owed you something. But the truth is, you're a stranger to your own family." I leaned against the wall. Not crying. Not angry. Just feeling a sheet of ice melt away inside me, not from heartbreak, but from finally seeing them clearly. Lauren kept yelling. "You want to renounce your inheritance? Fine. But don't think you have the right to destroy everything because of your petty emotions. You're not a victim. I'm the one who had to endure your pathetic wedding, your weird friends and your bland menu." I laughed, dry, small and bitter as sun-scorched lemons. She kept screaming. "And Eric, you really think he loves you? He's just isolating you so he can control you. You're blind, Morgan." I didn't know if the neighbors heard. I didn't care anymore. This was Lauren. The real Lauren. No gloss. No perfect big sister mask. Just a person who couldn't handle losing control. After 15 minutes of ranting, she gasped for air and took 2 steps back. Her final words were a venomous hiss. "You'll regret this, Morgan. Family isn't something you can just throw away over a few pieces of paper." I let her go. No reply. No opening the door. Just kept recording, until the sound of her footsteps faded completely. That night I sent the recording to an email account. Simple subject line: "In case evidence is needed." The recipient was a private email I had set up back in college, a place where I stored things too messy for everyday life. I didn't send it to anyone. But I kept it, like an invisible shield against any future denial. After that event, the number of messages from relatives doubled. Some even attached a photo of Lauren crying in front of my apartment door, captioned, "A kind sister just wanted to talk but her cold-hearted sibling slammed the door." Eric saw the photo. He froze. "There's making up a story now." I nodded. "It's fine, I've lived with this for 28 years. This is just another performance." I changed my phone number. Left all family group chats. adjusted all my social media privacy settings, and I sat down, typing a short sentence into my digital journal. Family ties are not shackles. And sharing blood does not give anyone the right to abuse you. I thought all the anger had been emptied out during Lauren's shouting. But it turned out that was just the opening act for a darker play, starring no one else but my mother. Friday. I had just finished a meeting with my tech team when I received a new email notification. The sender address was unfamiliar, but the name stopped my heart for a second. Helen Davis, my mother. Not from her personal Gmail but from her work email at a small law office in Flagstaff. Subject line: reconsidering recent events. I hesitated for a moment. Then opened the email. Dear Morgan, I know you're hurt, but you should have waited to hear the full story before getting so angry. Do you know why we sent you the invoice? It was a lesson, a way to test your maturity. Your father and I never intended to actually collect the money. We were planning, after a few weeks, to tear up the check and replace it with a $100,000, 0 cents, cashier's check. A real wedding gift for you. But your reaction was so disappointing. I didn't expect you to cut ties so coldly and publicly. Still, I hope you will reconsider. It's not too late to fix things. I read it again. And again. My eyes felt dry and wide open. A lesson? They called that detailed invoice, that frozen email, and the complete silence afterward a morality test? A slow, cold anger bubbled up inside me. Not the kind that flares up suddenly, but the kind that simmers deep, like magma waiting under a mountain. I stood up, paced around the living room, every step compressing years of buried emotions. I opened my laptop and typed quickly, my fingers racing my pounding heart. Dear Mom, thank you for confirming that the entire act of sending an invoice, the cold silence and emotional manipulation was not a mistake, but intentional. The fact that you call it a lesson in responsibility makes it crystal clear this was never about love, it was about control. You called it a test, I call it manipulation. You intended to gift me $100,000, 0 cents. Let me be clear. I don't want, and never needed, any money from someone who views love as a bargaining tool. You've always thought I needed to prove something. But you never understood. It's you who should re-examine how you measure your children's worth with dollars. Please do not contact me further, not even through work. Morgan. I hit send. No hesitation. No shaking hands. That night, Eric came home to find me sitting quietly by the window, holding a glass of water, staring into the distance. Did they reach out again? I nodded. Handed him my phone to read the email. He finished, exhaling sharply. You seriously think that's reasonable? A test? I didn't answer immediately. Just whispered. I think they don't even realize it's wrong, because they were taught this way. That thought triggered a blurry childhood memory of my mom talking about my grandparents. Strict, cold, believing and raising kids with an iron fist. I remembered one time Mom said, I had no choice, my parents didn't even allow me to talk back. Suddenly it became deeper than I had ever realized. Maybe, just maybe, Mom wasn't inventing cruelty. Maybe she was repeating what had once been done to her. Not an excuse, but an explanation. Still, knowing that didn't mean I had to endure it. I opened my notebook and wrote in red ink. Breaking a toxic cycle is not betrayal. It's awakening. 2 days later another email came from Mom, still from her work address. But I didn't read it. I simply filtered it straight to spam. And set an auto-declash rule. I ended the game right there. No more letters, no more replies, no more waiting. Just a decision carved deep by a lifetime of hurt. I was folding a blanket on Monday morning when my phone rang. An unknown number from Colorado lit up the screen. I was about to reject it, but something made me pause. I tapped accept, turned on speakerphone, just in case it was another relative trying a backdoor attack. Morgan. A male voice, deep, raspy, but gentle. Do you recognize me, This is Uncle Rick, your dad's younger brother. I sat up straight, my heart skipping a beat. Rick Davis, a name nearly erased from all family conversations since I was little. I only remembered he once lived in Boulder, Colorado, and that no one ever mentioned him again after a Thanksgiving when I was about 10 years old. Cautiously I answered. Yes, I remember. How are you, Uncle Rick? His voice dropped lower, as if carrying an entire sky of heavy memories. I'm not calling to lecture you. I'm calling because hearing about you brought back memories of myself 30 years ago. I froze. The phone sat on the table, his voice echoing through my tiny apartment. Outside the window, morning sunlight streamed through thin curtains, but inside me, a heavy cloud was beginning to break. Slowly and painfully. Uncle Rick spoke steadily, like reading a diary page buried too long. When I was young, your grandparents, your dad's parents, controlled everything with money. If you didn't obey, they cut you off. If you resisted, they labeled you ungrateful. I thought your dad would be the first to break the cycle. But I was wrong. I clenched my fists, my heart aching with every beat. When I refused to take a loan to pursue filmmaking, they said I was betraying the family. And your dad? He didn't just stay silent. He stood before the entire extended family and said, "Rick's delusional. He doesn't appreciate what his parents have done." His voice broke a little as if something fragile inside him had finally cracked. From that point on, I was completely cut off. They made up stories, told everyone I stole money, that I ran off with some woman. No one asked me. They believed it all. Because your grandparents had money, a voice, and the power to create truth. I didn't even realize when tears started falling. My hand loosened, and the pen I had been holding dropped to the floor. Uncle Rick exhaled slowly. Morgan, what you're going through isn't your fault. You're simply the first one clear-headed enough to see it. I asked, my voice trembling. Do you regret it? Standing up? He laughed, a soft, broken laugh. Of course. I regret staying silent for too long before I finally stood up. He paused, then added, You know, the way your dad treats you now, it's exactly how he once sided against me. The cycle, it just keeps repeating generation after generation. I swallowed hard. Part of me wanted to scream, to smash something, anything, to release the pent-up pain. But another part of me felt lighter. Because finally, someone had spoken aloud the truth I had long sensed but could never confirm. I used to think, maybe I was just too sensitive. Or selfish. No, Morgan. You're not wrong. You're just the first one brave enough to break the pattern. Uncle Rick went on to tell me that after cutting ties with the family, he lived simply, working in post-production at a local TV station. Not rich. Not famous. But at peace. I don't have much. But I kept my sanity. And my heart free from resentment. That's the best gift I can pass on to you. A true story, untouched by revision. I clutched the phone tighter, feeling as if someone had placed a steady hand on my shoulder, not to lead me, but simply to remind me. You're not alone. After that call, I couldn't sleep. I sat down and wrote in my journal. I'm not the broken shard of my family. I am the first crack brave enough not to hide. The next day, I printed out the email Uncle Rick sent me. I placed it carefully into the red file folder where I kept everything else. The check. The invoice. The printed letter from my mother. Not for revenge. But so that someday, if anyone claimed I had cut ties for no reason, I would have proof. I was simply the first one who dared to say no. The voicemail came late Thursday evening. I was folding laundry in the bedroom when my phone buzzed with a strange tone. An unfamiliar number. No name. No profile picture. I almost ignored it, like I had been doing with unknown calls lately. But when I checked voicemail, the voice that came through the speaker froze every muscle in my body. It's Dad, Morgan. I stood there, frozen, gripping the edge of the bed. It had been weeks since I last heard anything from Mom. Lauren had gone completely silent after screaming outside my door. But Dad? Dad was always the quiet one in every conflict. And now, he left a message. I don't want us to stay like this. If you can, meet me once. Not to argue. Just to talk. His voice wasn't raised like usual. No blame, no threats. Just tired. Softer. Part of me wanted to delete the voicemail immediately. But another part, the child I used to be, still longing to be seen by her father, held me back. I sent a short text. Saturday morning, 9 a.m., Café Verde. The usual spot. The cafe was on South Mill Avenue. The place I used to take him a few times during college. A simple place, with soft jazz music and sunlight streaming through the windows. I arrived early and picked a table by the window. At 9:05 he walked in. His hair was grayer now, his eyes were sunken, his steps slower. He carried a white envelope, you could tell exactly what was inside. I didn't stand up. I didn't smile. He sat down across from me, gripping the coffee cup the server had just brought. We sat in silence for about a minute before he spoke. Not good at talking, you know that. I said nothing. What happened? It shouldn't have gone that way. We should have done things differently. I looked him straight in the eye. You had chances to do things differently. When you sent the invoice. When you stayed silent after cashing the check. When Mom called it a lesson. And you still chose silence until now. He nodded, slowly and heavily. I'm not here to justify myself. I was wrong. At least about how I handled it. About not stopping your mother. And about making you feel abandoned. Hearing him say abandoned cracked something open. Not perfect, but not fake either. He pulled the white envelope from his jacket pocket and pushed it across the table. This is the check you sent. I never deposited it. We didn't need your money. We never did. I pushed the envelope back toward him, firmly. It's not about whether you cashed it. It's about the fact that you made me believe you would. You made me believe love in this family was a contract, violated, and you'd pay. He didn't respond. Just stared down at the wooden table, at an old scratch that had been glossed over with clear lacquer. I continued, my voice steady. I didn't come here to take the check back. I didn't come to ask for forgiveness or beg for understanding. I came to make it crystal clear, clearer than ever, that I can't live under a love that demands submission. He looked up. His eyes were red, but he didn't cry. Then, what do you want? I took a deep breath. Then relaxed my shoulders. I want boundaries. I'm no longer the little Morgan who needs validation. I don't need weekly calls. I don't need gifts. I don't need money. I need to live a life free from expectations and control. He sat still. No arguments. No pleading. After a few moments he nodded slightly. If that's what you need, I won't stand in the way. We left the cafe around 10 a.m. Before parting, he grabbed my hand, for the first time in years. I'm not sure I can fix everything. But I'll try to stop making the same mistakes. I pulled my hand back, offering only a faint smile. I hope you do. Then I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. That night, I sat on the balcony as a soft breeze brushed through my hair. Eric asked, "You okay?" "The trail is interesting," I didn't answer right away. I just sipped my tea, eyes gazing into the distance. It's not forgiveness. It's not reconciliation. It's closure. Like closing the door on a room you no longer use. Eric nodded and squeezed my hand. I don't know if my father will keep his promise. I don't know what lies ahead. But I know one thing. I am the one setting the boundaries. And I am choosing myself. Morgan's story is a powerful reminder that family ties cannot be based on control or conditions. When love becomes a tool of manipulation, people must choose between silent endurance or standing up for themselves. Morgan chose the latter, even at the cost of distance. But sometimes, true growth doesn't come from mending what's broken, but from setting boundaries and accepting that you deserve love without having to earn it. And that is true healing. What do you think about Morgan's choice? Was she too harsh, or was it the only way to protect herself? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt family stories.